Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another Hot Toys 1/6 scale DC EU figure unboxing and review. Today we're taking a look at both the DX30 Vigilante costume Black Adam and the DX31 Champion Golden Armor version. Now the question I hope to answer throughout the course of this video is, which one is better, or is it worth picking up both of them? Now, I got mine at a discount from Pop Collectibles. As always, do your own research. Make sure you are comfortable before buying. I have popped the link to their site in the description below, along with the discount code Justin's Collection, for 5% off your order if you do decide to buy from them. If you are heading down to the description, why not hit that subscribe, bell notification icon, and join button, so you're notified as soon as a brand new 1/6 scale Hot Toys DC figure review goes live on the channel. As for the box art, I think it looks awesome. We've got The Rock himself front and center, that is not the actual figure unfortunately, the Black Adam movie logo down below, and his chest symbol in the background with this super bright yellow glow around it. That does spill over onto the hieroglyphs that otherwise are mostly just done in this glossy finish, so they do stand out against the textured surface for the rest of the packaging. They have decided to go with blue for his electricity effects, and that is accurate to the Vigilante version. Whereas when he's wearing his golden armor, the champion outfit, the lightning is yellow. It's really interesting how it changes color depending on how villainous he is. We have more of that blue electricity spilling over the edge, this lightning bolt multi-triangle logo on the side of the box, as well as a ton more of those glossy hieroglyphs that do reveal themselves when you move the box around and the light bounces off the surface. Around the back, they've ditched that textured finish that we saw elsewhere on the box, and now they've gone with a high gloss finish. We've got warnings and legal info, an image of the actual figure himself, and the frame for this figure photography is done in the shape of Black Adam's chest symbol. I don't normally show the top of the box, but there's something about this almost retro rock star looking design for the Black Adam logo that just does it for me. I wish that this was the movie logo. I don't mind what they ended up going with, but this is just my vibe. I am curious to see if there's a slipcover underneath this artwork, so let's find out. There is, but it's not a full slipcover. Normally it would extend down to the bottom of the box, but because Black Adam's display base is so large, they had to create this cavity down below, so they shrunk the slipcover accordingly. It's just his chest symbol with some blue and yellow lightning coming from it, some cracked rockwork in the background, and a bunch more of those hieroglyphs. Now, say what you will about the film Black Adam, I know some people really don't like it. I think The Rock killed it in the role. And as soon as Hot Toys announced both versions of this guy, I was all in. First in-hand impressions for DX30. So far so good. This guy is very large and extremely heavy. What we are going to do now though, is move on to DX31. The DX30 was awesome, but this artwork, it just hits different. It's so much brighter and more colourful. This yellow edge light has been intensified on Black Adam, once again, the Rock in costume, not the actual figure. All of the gold just pops, his chest symbol is activated and glowing, and because his arms are hanging down by his sides rather than crossed in front of him, you can see the entire chest symbol. We still have the Black Adam movie logo down below, and his chest logo glowing ominously in the background. The side of the box is pretty much the same. We've got the rubble, the glossy hieroglyphs, but you can see them a little bit better this time thanks to that yellow glow, the 3-triangle Black Adam logo, and some more electricity spilling over the edge from the front cover. And then around the back, warnings and legal information, cracked rockwork, it's done in high gloss, and some figure photography of DX31. They were a little bit lazy with this image though. They removed the waist clamp on the right side, but not the left, which is just a very strange choice. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. We're here for the figure inside and not the box art. So the setup is identical to DX30. Base down below, shrunken down slipcover, chest symbol, lightning coming from it, but they have killed the blue lightning streaks, which is accurate to this particular look for him. When he was wearing the golden armor outfit, all of the lightning did change color from blue to yellow. First in-hand impressions for DX31. Yeah, he's just as heavy as DX30. The gold, much more vibrant, and he's got his cape on. I am curious to find out if this is removable though. What we are going to do now is get all of the accessories that come with both DX30 and DX31 laid out in the lightbox and take a closer look at everything they come with. For the sake of simplicity, DX30's accessories, DX31's. I also only have one set of head sculpts out here because they both come with the exact same sculpts. Now, the display bases are practically identical, except for the color of the lightning. For DX30, the electricity is blue, versus for 31, it's yellow. I like how clear the electricity effects are, but the way they just stick up out of the display base doesn't work for me. Luckily, they are optional, so you can take them off if you so choose. They are sitting in these ports very loosely. The instructions do a terrible job of telling you where they're supposed to go. I think I got this right, but I could be wrong. Trial and error is going to be your best friend. The rest of the display base, I have no complaints with. This thing looks awesome. It looks like Black Adam's throne after he destroyed it towards the end of the movie. You've got washers in the crevices, even some green shading to make it look slightly mossy, and a big 3D raised Black Adam logo around the front. I would have liked to have seen that gradient effect to the lightning bolt for the A, just like the actual movie logo, but it doesn't ruin this display base for me. They've even gone so far as to detail the back of the display base, so all the way around this thing is really well sculpted and painted. Now, I do currently have the flight pole installed with the spring-loaded waist clamp up top. I would caution against using this for a long period of time because these waist clamps do tend to dig into superhero suits when you leave them on the clamps. So maybe use it for figure photography, then take him off and have him standing on the display base instead. But hey, you know what? If you want to have him displayed mid-flight all the time, it's your figure, absolutely go for it. Now, I have removed the yellow electricity. I just wanted to show you that they are indeed yellow. Now, one really cool thing about this display base is if you decide you don't want to have it with the flight pole installed, you get this little rock that you can use to cover up the port that the flight pole screws into. It's that sort of stuff that I love to see with diorama bases. It's all about realism, so covering up that port just makes this thing look so much more believable. Oh, and if you couldn't already tell, we'll be jumping back and forth between DX30's accessories and DX31's. So he does come with multiple electricity effect pieces that you can actually slide onto him. They're not just for the display base. This one goes around his upper torso, it's cast in this translucent blue plastic, whereas these two slide onto his arms. I will show you what he looks like wearing these a little bit later. And then for DX31, we get the exact same thing, just done in yellow translucent plastic instead, but the molds are the same. This accessory though is exclusive to the DX30. I would have liked to have seen this included with 31, because initially I think he was going to come with this, but then they switched this out for the cape. Either way, it's his hooded robe/cloak thing. It is wired, and we'll discuss this in a lot more detail when we bring the figure out here. The same thing can be said for the head sculpts. We'll discuss these in way more detail later on. We get two different expressions, and you get both head sculpts with both figures. Seeing as though they both have LEDs in the chest for the symbol light up effect, you have to have some way of powering those LEDs. So they've included one of their signature little USB-C powered junction boxes. But neither of these figures come with a USB-C cable. So you've just bought yourself an expensive Black Adam, now you have to go and buy yourself a USB-C cable. Because I don't think everyone has infinite cables lying around that we can then donate to our figures. Now the junction box can either be holstered on his belt, or using this clip, you can attach it to the flight pole. Then you want to connect up this thinner cable to the top of the junction box and plug that into Black Adam's back. And lastly, a full array of hands. And these are probably the most detailed hands that I have ever seen in 1/6 scale. The amount of skin texture for the palm, coupled with the subtle bagginess to the skin in between the thumb and the forefinger, and the vein work and the fingernails, all of that stuff is insane. It's also an asymmetrical design where the left hand has some armor on it and the right doesn't. So we do get two slightly different sets of open palm hands for the DX30, and some closed fists already installed on him out of the box. Then for DX31, we get the same array of hands plus one bonus one. And the hand armor is much brighter and more saturated as compared to DX30. So this is the second set of open palm hands, where the fingers are splayed out a little bit more, and the exclusive gripping hand. I'm not sure why this is here. If you know, can you just weigh in down in the comments below? I like to see it because the more hands the merrier, it's just that he doesn't really have anything to grip onto. And once again, 2 closed fists already installed on him. What we are going to do now, though, is get DX30 and 31 out here. Standing straight up and down in the light box, no crazy poses, or accessories, or anything like that. Right now, it's too early to tell which one I prefer, or if it's just worth going ahead and picking up both of them. I am noticing some key differences, however. DX30, on the left, showcases the Rock's physique and proportions as there's no big massive black fabric hanging behind him for the cape, obscuring his silhouette. Whereas the gold armor on DX31 helps him pop a little bit more. At the end of the day, they're the same figure, just with some tweaks and changes. The bodies both capture the bulkiness of the Rock, but the padding for the suit is what sells it. That combined with all of the screen-printed texture and detail on the surface. Then we get to the head sculpts. They're by far my favourite thing about these two figures. Up close and personal, kicking things off with the DX30's first head sculpt. We will try out the other one, but we'll start off here first. This is as close to a perfect head sculpt as I think I've ever seen. The likeness is spot on from every angle. And the expression with the furrowed brow and the lips parted so you can see the bottom row of teeth poking through, it absolutely works for me. And then we get to the detail. We've got vein work, even running down his neck, this not so subtle wrinkling at the back of his head sculpt, and the top of his head is bumpy and uneven, making it look way more realistic. But my favourite feature with this head sculpt has nothing to do with the detail. It's of course the moving eyes. So we've ditched the body just so that I can show you how we move the eyes. You have to take off the head sculpt, and then on the inside you can make out the 2 little joysticks. You can use the included tool, or you can just move them around with your finger, it's entirely up to you. Simply by moving the eyes around, we can alter the expression, infusing so much personality into this sculpt. If you find this sculpt getting stale for you, pop the head sculpt off, move the eyes around, and freshen it up a little. I mean, come on. This head sculpt with a subtle tilt and the eyes looking up at us? I can't get enough of how good this looks, and I haven't even mentioned how perfectly the skin tone and skin texture matches between these two pieces. Yes, there is a seam around the back, but from the front, it looks almost entirely seamless. Because he has such a chiseled jawline, it disguises that cut. I like it, but it's not really a Black Adam head sculpt, is it? This is just a Rock head sculpt. The people's eyebrow doesn't work for Black Adam. He's got this smirk, his eyebrow is very raised, and he still retains the moving eye feature with this head sculpt. All of the rest of the detail is still exceptional. I would have preferred an angry head sculpt over and above this one because I don't think, like I said, it suits the character. It's here if you want it, but it's not for me. Oh yeah, immediately way better. This head sculpt with his eyes looking up just looks mean as hell. This is the one I'm going with in my display. Now, if you're wondering how you access the connector for the light up feature, it's via this Velcro closure flap piece on the suit. It's quite difficult to get in there because the Velcro does grip on nice and securely, which is a good thing because it keeps the suit closed, but it is going to fight against you constantly as you're trying to pry it open and plug the little connector in. Okay, that was just as terrible as I thought it was going to be. Once you have everything connected, you will also have to do some clever cable management. The main wire that connects to the junction box and the figure can just slip out the bottom of the suit. But it is very long for no reason because this can either be holstered on his belt or the flight pole. I don't think we needed this massive cable. They could have shortened it so that it could have just slipped in the suit and it wouldn't have been dangling around like this. Then lastly, the USB-C cable. You want to connect it to the junction box and your power supply. Now, all of this stuff can be seen from around the front, so do make sure you tuck it right around the back. Unless he's wearing his robes for the DX30 or the cape for the DX31, then none of that stuff will be visible anyway, thanks to all of that massive black fabric. Once you flick the switch on the junction box, then his chest symbol does light up. I like it, but I don't think it's worth the trade-off of having a big cable coming out the back of your figure and then having to manage all of this stuff. This junction box has fallen off multiple times already, and the little cable inside has also become unplugged simply by moving this around. I think it looks just as good without the LEDs turned on. Unlike a C-3PO or Iron Man figure, for example, where if the LEDs are turned off, they look completely dead, the same thing cannot be said for Black Adam. This chest symbol, especially on this darker DX30 Vigilante suit for him, doesn't need to be turned on. You can see all of this detail on the surface, it's bright, it's saturated, and it's got this metallic finish to it, so light does bounce off it. It almost looks illuminated, even when it isn't. The light up effect is cool, but it's not a make or break for me. Now let's talk about the physique, because this guy is absolutely huge. He's got this V taper down to the waist, some big defined shoulders and traps, and of course, massive biceps. The arms are solid sculpted plastic underneath the rubbery suit, whereas the pecs and the abs, pretty much the entire front torso, is made of that squishy rubbery material. So all of the musculature is poking through thanks to padding. I usually prefer solid sculpted bodies because that means better articulation, but I can't fault the way this looks. I mean, if it works, then I don't see a massive issue with this. We'll have to see how he moves, though, a little bit later in the articulation segment. Now, one thing that I never noticed about Black Adam's suit in the movie was that there were some little stories printed on the surface. We've got Zeus up here on the right shoulder, whereas on the left we've got some other kind of scene. If you know what that is, let me know down in the comments below. Now this armband piece is made of rubbery plastic, so it conforms to the shape of the bicep as you adjust it up and down, or you can remove it entirely. One of my favorite things about DX30 versus 31 is that it is more subtle and nuanced. There is that gold poking through for the gauntlets, the belt, the armband, the hand armor, and the boots, but it's hidden underneath this almost surface layer of dirt and grime. It was always there, it just needed Black Adam to realize that he was a hero rather than a villain for it to reveal itself. The belts are also made of rubbery plastic, and these side pieces are fused to the belts, so if you do move it up, then it does alter his physique and silhouette, so I would suggest pulling the belts down as far as they will go. I'm running out of adjectives to describe how big this figure is, and how heavy this is. This guy weighs a ton. The thighs alone are enormous, and it's all solid sculpted plastic. There isn't any padding for the legs, so fingers crossed that will help articulation. Got more screen printing with the little hieroglyphs and details on the suit. The knee pads are attached via Velcro, so you can remove them, dial in the pose, and then pop them right back on, rather than them peeling off on you as you're trying to bend the legs. Then we get to the boots. They're a split-cut boot design, there's some gold poking through underneath the surface layers of dirt and grime, and there's some kind of sculpted textured tread on the underside. Not in the traditional sense, it more looks like it's some kind of mottled metal texture. I am curious to see what he looks like with his robes on though. Okay, so now that I've installed the robes on DX30, I am tempted to display him like this. Every now and then. I don't think this is going to be my go-to display option, for a couple of reasons that we'll get to. Let's talk about the stuff I like first. Number one, this textured weave to the fabric makes it look a little bit more rough and ready. That, combined with the tattered edges, of course. We have this gold trimming, and it's fully wired. Along the front edge, the bottom, in this tassel, and around the front for the hood. So the stuff that I don't like, this hides a lot of his bulk and physique and detail on the suit. And the hood does stick up in the middle, making him look like a wizard or something, a cone head. Maybe that's a callback to the wizard that gave him his powers, you know how Billy always calls him a wizard. But I don't think that was the intended effect. If only they'd have included a wire down the middle of the hood, then we could have had this thing sit down and look so much better. As it stands, it pops up and it's so freaking challenging to work with. Maybe if you have more patience than I do, you can get this whole situation to look a whole lot better. I just wanted to try this before we move on to the DX31 because 31's lightning is yellow compared to the blue electricity for DX30. Having this pop of blue on an otherwise quite dark suit, it works. I initially didn't think I was going to display him like this. Now that I'm seeing him with the lightning pieces on, I am tempted. It looks quite natural the way it flows over his shoulders, and the hand/arm ones do disguise the wrist pegs. They were quite visible before because these braces didn't slide down all the way, but now I realize that that's probably because they needed the gap so that the lightning pieces could slide on and sit over the wrist pegs. For figure photography, I reckon this is going to work a treat. DX31 takes everything I love about DX30 and dials it up to 11. It's not to say that this is the superior figure, it just hits different is the best way I can put it. DX30 is badass because it's his villain look, whereas 31 is more heroic. It just comes across that way thanks to all of this brighter, shinier gold. The armor around his neck area is now gold, same thing with the outline for the chest symbol, and all of that black soot-like grossness is gone. The symbol looks a hell of a lot cleaner, but there's still a lot of surface detail to look at. The armband is gold, same thing with the gauntlets, the belt area, and the boots. But they have hit these pieces with multiple washes. Brown and black to be specific. So it does sink into the crevices and all of the sculpt work, so the detail does pop, and it highlights this gross-looking mottled metal texture. Some people will probably prefer the all-black look, and some people will pick up both and interchange a couple of parts and pieces to create their perfect look for Black Adam. I'm not sure yet which one I prefer. If you have a favorite, let me know down in the comments below. Right, so I think I now know why they included the people's eyebrow head sculpt. Because on the DX31 body, something about the more heroic, brighter look to the suit does complement this head sculpt. So in my display for DX31, I'm going with this sculpt. The other new thing, I guess, with this body is the cape. They wanted to have it really flat over his shoulders to create that CGI look from the movie. Because I do think that the cape was added later on in post-production. I don't think it was a physical thing. That's why we saw Black Adam or The Rock without it when he appeared in this costume at Comic-Con. So it's super thin over the shoulders, and then around the back it gets a lot bulkier thanks to the wires. The wires start around here, just to keep this very flat over the top. There's this screen printed detail on the surface, and it is 2-ply, which means it's going to drape well thanks to the heaviness, plus there's a wire along the bottom. This is actually one of Hot Toys' better capes for once. So if you have the patience to get it to look good, I reckon you're going to be perfectly fine. The best way I can describe this look is messy. I don't like this at all. I much prefer the blue electricity from DX30. And I think that's because the yellow is more optically clear, so the dark suit pokes through and dulls down the brightness of the lightning. It does match the gold and the yellow chest symbol a bit better, but that's not enough to win me over. If I was going to display either Black Adam with electricity effect pieces, it would be the blue ones that come with DX30. Something I didn't mention before is that you can flip the electricity pieces around and make it look like he's blasting some lightning out of his hands. I think you can only do it with the right side though, because when I flip this one around, the cluster of lightning down the bottom is super tight, so it felt like when I was trying to wedge his fist in there that I was going to scratch up the paint applications on his hand. Maybe you'll have better luck than I did. So now that we've removed the cape, this is essentially what we saw The Rock wearing at SDCC when they did the Black Adam panel. So if you want to have him accurate to that real life appearance of Black Adam, this is what you want to go with. For me, while I like this, and now you don't have this big massive black around the back so you can see his physique a lot better, I reckon I'm still going to go with the cape in my collection. For a quick side-by-side comparison, on the left DX30 and on the right DX31. When I first decided that I was going to go ahead and pick up both versions of Black Adam, I questioned myself a little, because what I thought I was doing was committing to getting two of the same figure, just with 31 being painted slightly differently. I'm glad that I picked up both, because I could not have been more wrong. There's something about 31 that just makes it feel like a completely different figure. It might be the cape, it might be the gold armor, it might be the yellow lightning, or it could be the fact that he's currently wearing the People's Eyebrow head sculpt. As long as you have room in your display and you like the character or you like the rock, I think it might be worth picking up both of these. Next up, Hot Toys Justice League Superman, wearing a custom VDOT Collectibles head sculpt and a Jackson Ju cape. Alongside Black Adam, yeah, Henry Cavill is shorter, and he is in real life as well. Henry Cavill is 6'1", whereas The Rock is billed by the WWE as 6'5". But most people speculate he's actually around 6'3" or 4". Then again, Black Adam has these big chonky soled boots on, so that would give him a height boost. To me, this looks about right. First off, I just want to say that I love this. This is making the DC fan in me very happy. Seeing Shazam alongside Black Adam, this is what we should have seen on screen. In figure format, it doesn't work as well, because the Toys Battalion Shazam, even on the custom body that I decided to go with, he's just not tall enough. In real life, Zachary Levi is 6'3", and as we just discussed, The Rock also is roughly 6'3", give or take a few inches because of the size of his boots. He towers over Shazam here. Shame on you, Hot Toys. Y'all absolutely should have given us a Dr. Fate. Most people will tell you that one of the best parts about Black Adam was Pierce Brosnan in this role, and the costume just looks sick. Luckily, Premium Toys decided to give us a third-party version. So, standing alongside Black Adam, they complement each other perfectly. He is quite significantly shorter than The Rock, but Pierce Brosnan in real life is 6'1", so I think that checks out. Another character that Hot Toys should have given us. And another standout performance in Black Adam. It's Aldous Hodge as Hawkman. This is the third-party version by Premier Toys. Not to be confused with Premium Toys, the company that made that Dr. Fate we just looked at. Two completely different companies. Now, Hawkman does appear taller thanks to the wings on his helmet, but to the top of his head, he is still shorter than Black Adam. That's accurate. Aldous Hodge, IRL, is 6'1". Going over Black Adam's articulation, starting off with the DX30. We will do the 31 as well, even though they are the exact same thing. Just for the sake of completeness, I want to show you both of them. Starting off with his head sculpt, it's on a fixed neck with a double ball peg up underneath. Looking forward to there, looking up to there, just enough range for a flight pose, swivel, and pivot side to side. His arms are on ratchets going up to there, going forward and back, also on soft ratchets, butterfly joint at the shoulder that hinges up and down. Swivel at the bicep, double bend at the elbow going past 90, but his massive bicep does collide with his gauntlet armor. Then for the wrist peg, it's a hinge and swivel. His torso does have the LED light up effect in it, and it's padded. So crunching forward on ratchets to there, going back to there, swivel, and pivot side to side. His legs will go forward to there on ratchets, going out to there, slightly clickier ratchets, swivel at the upper thigh, double bend at the knee going past 90, and a split cut boot design with a double ball peg for the ankles. Good for forward and back, swivel, as well as ankle tilt. Moving on to the DX31, which is going to be the same thing, except now we have a cape to contend with. Starting off with his head sculpt, fixed neck, double ball peg, looking forward to there, looking up to there, swivel, and pivot side to side. Ratchets at the shoulders, going up to there, forward to there, butterfly joint that hinges up and down. Swivel at the bicep, double bend at the elbow, and for the wrist peg, a hinge and swivel. A limited torso thanks to the light up effect and the padding, crunching forward to there, going back to there, swivel, and pivot side to side. His legs will go forward on ratchets to there, going out to there, swivel at the upper thigh. Double bend at the knee going just past 90, and a split cut boot design with a double ball peg for the ankles. So they'll go forward and back, swivel, and you do get some ankle tilt. Moving on to the 3 cool and 3 annoying things. The first annoying thing is, while I do like the flexibility of being able to remove the cape on DX31, the way you have to go about removing it is completely over-engineered. You have to rip off the head sculpt and neck piece, then go and find a screwdriver, because you're gonna need it for these 2 Phillips head screws holding the neck armor in place. You take that off, which will allow you to access the cape. I think this could have been simplified in a way that didn't use Phillips head screws. Considering we live in a world where Velcro and magnet reinforced clips exist, I don't care what you do, as long as it doesn't require me having to go and find a screwdriver to take a frickin' cape off. The second annoying thing is, surprisingly, the display base. While it looks great, it's just not very functional as a display base. If you decide you want to have him standing on it rather than hovering above it, you have this little sliver of space to work with. So when you do pop him on it, as you can see, he takes up the entire thing, and for dynamic posing, this just isn't going to work. The third annoying thing, and bear with me on this one, is the secondary head sculpt. In Black Adam, they specifically decided not to have The Rock use his signature people's eyebrow expression. So why is it included with a Black Adam 1/6 scale figure? I would have preferred an angry, eyes glowing head sculpt as compared to this. I still like it, but I think they could have done better. The first cool thing is how they handle the chest symbol light up effect. Having the little junction box around the back that plugs into him and then you have a USB cable connected to it just feels like a real practical Hollywood costuming effect. And it works even better with the DX31 because you have the cape around the back, so you're never going to see any of this visible ugliness. The second cool thing is, thanks to the 2 different head sculpts with moving eyes and all the differences between DX30 and DX31, if you're crazy like me and you decide to pick up both of them, it's not going to look like you've just decided to buy 2 of the exact same figure. The third cool thing is that the DX31's cape is also compatible with the DX30. And now that I've seen this, I don't think I can go back, honestly. There is something so badass about the all-black outfit and the black cape. I'm almost tempted to say the same thing about this, the DX30's robes on the DX31. The gold trimming just beautifully ties the look together with all of the gold armor. I wish that both figures came with both options. I don't like that you have to pick up 30 and 31 to get the cape and the robes. Wrapping up on DX30 and DX31. Right off the bat, is it necessary to pick up both of them? No, I don't think so, unless you're a crazy hardcore collector like I am. I think you're going to be able to probably pick which one you prefer based off what you've seen throughout the course of the video, and make your decision accordingly. If I had to pick my favorite, I am leaning towards DX31. The cleanness of the gold and how much brighter the suit is because of it will help him stand out in the collection. That combined with the cape, of course. DX30 still has some strong suits over and above 31, like the tattered robes and being able to see his physique a little bit better because he doesn't have a cape on. It's all going to be down to personal preference. No matter which Black Adam you decide to pick up, I think you're going to be pretty satisfied. This is one of my favorite Hot Toys DX releases. He's big, he's bulky, he perfectly captures the physique of The Rock, and the head sculpts are just incredible. I cannot say enough good stuff about these head sculpts. Even the People's Eyebrow one, which just isn't my favorite of the 2, I can still see myself displaying the figure with it. That's how good the head sculpt is. The detail, the likeness, the expression, and the moving eyes. All of that stuff is what sells me on these head sculpts. And seeing as though the head sculpt is the soul of a figure, I'm glad that Hot Toys nailed it. So at the end of this, do I recommend picking up a Black Adam? I think it's pretty clear. Yeah, absolutely. Now, I got mine at a discount from Pop Collectibles. As always, do your own research. Make sure you are comfortable before buying. I have popped the link to their site in the description below, along with the discount code Justin's Collection, for 5% off your order if you do decide to buy from them. While you're down in the description, why not hit that subscribe, bell notification icon, and join button if you like the sound of seeing your name in the end credits of my reviews. Like, comment, and subscribe. We'll catch you in the next video. Upper torso,